Is there a problem out there that if we were to solve it, could help both improve the experience for our customers, but also improve the experience for our employees? Because oftentimes the experience moments that are hard for customers are also hard for employees because we've got complex processes that create those experiences or a lot of manual touch points.
You're listening to Working Forward, Future of Work podcast series, presented by Symetra, in partnership with NASA Reimagine. Hosted by Harry Monty, Laura Dinan-Haber, Paul Tyler, and Todd Zen, we explore the future of work from a variety of viewpoints and discuss the challenges and opportunities ahead.
Hello, and welcome to the latest installment of the Working Forward podcast. I am Todd Zen, one of your hosts, and we are so glad you've joined us. We got a really fun topic today. We're going to be digging into customer experience. How does customer experience and employee experience impact future benefit plans and really, again, the future of work, which is our core subject, as everyone knows. We've got two great guests joining us from Symetra who do this type of work, and they are going to have great voices on this topic. We've got one external guest from a software company on the forefront of new ways to use AI to get valuable insight, on employee experience. I'm happy to report all of our hosts are here, Paul, Laura, and Harry. So glad to have the gang back together. I'm going to introduce you to our guests in just one moment, but before I do, I always like to ask Harry the first question. So, Harry, when you think about employee experience and you think about customer experience and kind of the nexus of these two things, I would have to assume as the leader of a benefits organization, this is just layers on top of layers, right? We are in the business of designing great employee experiences, customer experiences for our employee clients. You lead a division, so it's very important to you, the experience of our employees. So, what do you think about this topic broadly, and what are you excited to talk about today?
Yeah, Todd, thanks. I mean, I always love to give an opening comment or two. And this time I actually went back to our very first episode. I checked this morning, literally 2 minutes into the existence of the Working Forward podcast. I made a comment that is so spot on for this topic. And that is that consumers and like all the work that companies do around customer-centric design, all that, consumers are the workforce. And the discussion was around why would we expect employees, the workforce, to want anything different at work than they have in their daily life, in the things they do in their own personal time, from what motivates them to the way they want to get things done. Absolutely, there's a parallel between the workforce and the future of work and being a consumer and understanding their needs. So I'm really excited about today. Obviously, it's critical for us to be listening to our employees, right? It's critical to every company. And so I think the topic today is just spot on. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Harry. So with that, let's bring on our guests. As I mentioned, the first two join us from inside of Symetra. First, we are thrilled to have Julie Shoji joining us. She is our Senior Vice President of Customer Experience and Change Leadership. Julie, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Todd. It's great to be here.
We also have joining us from Symetra, Jessica Callahan. Jessica is our Vice President of Total Rewards in our Human Resources organization. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Wonderful to hear. Thank you. And finally, we've got Jim Marple joining us from a company called Aniline, where he is the Chief Experience Officer, and he's going to have a lot of exciting stuff to share with us about what his company is doing. Jim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Todd, and everybody. It's great. I can't wait to get it going.
All right. Well, speaking of, I think Harry is itching to ask the first question, so I'm going to hand it over to him to get us rolling.
Yeah, let's get it going. So, Jim, I'm going to go to you right off the bat. Can you just share a little bit more about Aniline so that our listeners understand the company? And specifically, what need did you see in the industry that led to building what you do today?
Yep. Wonderful question. How long is this podcast again? No, the quick answer is we're an employee perception analytics company. It was founded on the idea that time and time again, when we look at organizational performance, risk performance, almost any metric you can think of. You ask the question, do high performing companies have good culture, or do good cultures produce high performing companies? Where's the chicken and the egg? And simultaneously, advances in AI, particularly natural language processing, or NLP, enable us, and that's the whole chat GPT, right? You can consume mass amounts of what is otherwise messy text. And the English language doesn't make it easy, because we can say the same thing multiple ways. By harnessing all of the data that exists out in the world that's public, job sites, job review sites, we created a model that can understand employee sentiment at scale. So one of the problems is, I was speaking to an HR VP at a hospital. He's got a person who reads all of the job site reviews, summarizes them for a weekly report to the CEO. Okay. Okay, that's one company. We can benchmark them against any of their peers in real time. So understanding where you stand, both internally, where are my people, and understanding where my peers are. And actually, the case, I'll pause here, because, like I said, I could keep going. But the one that really, really works well is for sales, where, in sales, there's the discovery process. What's going on at the company? Well, we've really focused in on firms that sell into HR, talent function, insurance, consulting, HRIS, tech, that kind of stuff, because we can surface pain points in the data so that you can walk in with a hypothesis that says, hey, it's a model. All models are wrong. Some are useful. But, we're kind of seeing these are the priorities, and our solution can help you in this manner. So you're already, down that track. Whether you're a sales, oriented function, or a partnership, to get the most out of the relationship, we really accelerate that and enrich it, because our metrics, no one has to sign up. It's fully automated, and the data exists in real time, and we update it continuously. That's the beauty of not only the AI, but just the tech stacks that are available to process that mass amount of information. Like the stuff I grew up on, no way. But today's stuff, it's remarkable. I'm sure we've all seen examples.
Yeah, well, Jim, I saw an article you posted, I think, on the company's blog, talking about burnout and AI. Maybe talk to us a little bit about how companies are using AI to really identify when their employees are just tired.
Well, it really is, the AI just makes it faster, cheaper, more responsive. So we got surveys, right? So the cycle time to construct the survey, get it approved, get it back, get people to actually respond candidly is what, weeks, maybe, if you're really good at it, if it's a small, compact survey. And then you do enough surveys and people get tired of it. So our stuff starts on the outside. It's the labor market view. And that's happening all the time, whether you want it to or not. Okay. So it's there for the taking. It can be interpreted. And it's really, when you think about AI, if you can come away with two things, it can really tell you what is very quickly, and then it makes the inference. So somebody might not say the word burnout. Okay. But I micromanaged, I got 18 bosses telling me what to do. These things that just make the workplace, heavy. And then you have the opposite. It's not all negative. It's easy to talk about the negatives, but to start to see, well, where are the good examples? Frontline management, critical factor. We work with a lot of firms around getting that frontline people manager highly effective. Our friends at McKinsey will tell you that's a pretty important thing to do.
Yeah, well, Jim, just a follow-up question on that. I know from experience, and you alluded to this, problem number one is getting employees to actually write stuff down, respond to a survey. Yeah. Second is the trust factor. Only answer on this link. Don't go directly to it. Okay, why am I doing this? Now add in the factor of AI into this. How do you sort of manage trust at an employee and create an environment where people can be candid?
Well, my personal philosophy, and it's been proven out, until you've got humility, you're not going to get much trust. So number one, let's be humble. Then when it comes to the tech, the fewer barriers you can have. Like you said, the link and the this and the that. Does it, would it be better if it were fully anonymous? Our work coming out over the next very near term is a fully anonymous, natural, human-ish avatar interaction. So it just make it more natural, make it more human. The survey's not very human, right? A conversation like we're having, very human. And the comment that Harry made, this is happening outside in the world. This is happening in all facets of life. So as we build benefits programs, why not make that experience as human as possible? That's where the AI has to work fast enough because it has to understand what I'm saying in more or less real time. And then it can store the data. And it's ultimately comes getting the data in a better way, faster, with more pace. Because if we've seen anything, everything is moving faster. So how do we move faster? By being less prescriptive. And if it's facilitated by enough data, we can get the answers we need.
Hey, Jim, I'm just going to jump in here for a second because you mentioned moving fast. And Paul just asked you about individuals having trust, right? Trust in the sharing the information, having the information available. What about the employer, right? So like I spend a lot of time with tech startups and they all face the same challenges, right? Companies taking too long to make a decision to move forward with the tool, the slow sales process. If you were talking to an employer about what they need to set aside and the kind of hurdles that they need to get over internally, culturally, in order to move forward with a company like yours, like what's your advice to them? What do they need to get past?
Boy, if I knew the answer to that is a terrific question. And we do an awful lot of work in the insurance industry. So, are you really serious about innovation? Are we really solving a problem? Is there, is there a principled goal that we can fulfill? And then there's good old crawl, walk, run. You don't have to jump in, with both feet and put your foot in, get some feedback loop, help us get better. Okay. And see that as it's collaboration. It's funny, as consumers, we want to look at something and buy it. In our world, it really is a two-way street. We are constantly working with our customers, and I think we've done a good job at evolving over the 4 years we've been doing this. But if a customer, wants to, I'm old enough to remember Johnny Carnac, right?
I remember it too. I'm just going to say that.
And so, it's like so many people do this, and they play read my mind. And if that's your attitude, have fun. But you really have to give to get is kind of one of these tech strategies where in order to get the most out of us, let us in, we'll sign everything, we'll protect it. And maybe that's where the trust comes in is, can you protect our data? And that's where what I like about what we do and what makes us easy to buy is everything we operate on is public. It's already there. There is no real governance. It's not, I think once you get inside a company and AI has access to your data, you got to put some really strict, not only, you have to have an evolving governance structure because the evolution of it's going to change, right? Just as fast as you can do it. So there's perhaps two ways of thinking about it. The access to information that you got to keep tight, and that's a tough one. The second is how you use it. That's easier, right? I got a bunch of tools in the garage, and I know how to use them, at least most of them. Governing how people use tools and behaviors are probably what we're good at. So let's, start small, crawl, walk, run, and get more comfortable and evolve it with your technology partners is what, that's when we're at our best.
So I want to jump in here and bring Julie into the conversation. And I think it's an interesting segue because, Jim, it's really exciting to learn about what you're doing at Aniline and using technology to really measure employee experience and understand kind of what's going on with employees. And, Julie's role here, and I'm going to ask her to explain it in a bit, but I think the through line is that Julie works on customer experience, and to us, customer experience and employee experience is linked, right? Employees are our customers. So, Julie, you do really interesting work for Symetra. You help us understand our customers, that help people like me build products that meet the needs of our customers. But could you share with our audience a little bit more about what you do here and the importance of your role at Symetra?
Yeah, sure, Todd. So I'm responsible for ensuring we're listening to our customers, and we do that in so many different ways. We have surveys, we do focus groups, we conduct interviews, and we also leverage AI to bring voice to text analytics to scale, to help us really understand, like, why are people calling us, and really understand those themes. And that really helps us provide insights to people like Todd that create new products or bring new product features to market, as well as those teams that are really looking to improve our customer experiences, because we're able to provide, what are those things that customers are asking for, asking about, where is friction happening, and really bring those to life so prioritization of the right moments can happen.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about Harry's opening comment and how we are all customers and consumers. And then I immediately went to, for some reason, right, the express checkout. And then it made me think of work from home Fridays and how it used to be the same thing, right? Like you would check in and then check out real fast. And it was, it's important. And I think what's interesting here is, as I'm listening, we're talking about AI, we're talking about giving people what they want. We're also talking about governing behavior, governing information, and the importance of putting structure and rules in place in order to protect data, and then also inform, whether it's decisions, whether it's product creation, whether it's CX or UX. So I think I want to dive a little bit deeper here with you, Julie, and get a deeper understanding from you around why customer experience is so important. I mean, it may sound like a surface level question, but I feel as though your role could really answer that in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the easy answers, I guess, or most obvious ones to me, is that I think it's really human nature for us to assume that we understand what customers want and need. And if you think about even the workforce, there's up to 5 generations of people in the workforce today, and each of them have different values, different motivators, different priorities. They're all in different stages of their life, and our customers as well. They're all going through different things. And so while we can assume we know the answer and what they need, talking to them, asking them, listening to them are how we can prioritize and validate some of those assumptions to make sure we're focused on the right things.
Yeah, so Jessica, I'm going to bring you in here because I saw you nodding when Julie mentioned the multiple generations and all the different needs that employees have. So I want to kind of bring this really to the employee of an employer, and specifically benefit design, right? Mm-hmm. So could you just say a little bit about how employee feedback has informed or influenced the way that you design benefit plans for Symetra, how you communicate those benefits? I'm curious for your take on how employee feedback has influenced that.
Yeah, so we are really committed to listening to the employee voice and then incorporating that into our programs and policies. And over the years, we've had this huge shift at Symetra from, a select group perhaps having the ability to work from home or work remotely to being remote first. And we had to make a significant shift, I think, specifically when I think about open enrollment and how we went about doing that, because having in-person open enrollment meetings was not going to work when everyone is working from home or a remote location. So shifting really to having pre-recorded or live sessions around open enrollment, which actually benefited us twofold. One, it allows employees to watch those recordings when it works for their schedule, and also to bring the person in their household who may be making those decisions on benefit plans for them to also watch those recorded sessions. And I think that was definitely a pain point for us prior to kind of going to a more virtual model. I think the other piece where we really partner with the employees and listening to their voices is engaging with our employee resource groups and having specific conversations with them around how are they using our benefit plans? What would they like to see? And then communicating our benefit plans within ERG events. I know just recently we did one on leaves with our Parents Connect group, which was really widely received.
Jessica, I'm interested in maybe a real example of, say, a benefit you've put into the mix recently, and also, has the cycle changed? Typically, most of my benefits I've received from HR have been on an annual cycle. It feels like we're starting to develop and adjust benefit plans more frequently than that, and I think we could, certainly with the feedback that we'd be getting from our AI systems.
Yeah, I think we are still on more of an annual cycle and looking towards, what are we going to offer in the next coming year. I think that there is an opportunity for that to kind of pivot a little bit, but, there's a lot of structure in place that's still based around that annual cycle. I think when I reflect on a program or practice that we pivoted on based on employee feedback, it was around mental health and mental health offerings. And we tackled that one from a multi-prong approach. First, we changed the timing and amount of employer funding to HSA accounts so that there was more money available at the beginning of the year to help offset those deductibles that hadn't been met yet. And the other thing was listening to employees around utilization of our EAP and, sort of that 3 visits per incident, and really looking for something that was going to meet the needs of our employees on a longer scale. And the feedback has been very good in terms of those pivots. Also leveraging as we can, as long as the federal government gives us that ability, to make virtual mental health offerings kind of offset and not hitting that deductible.
It sounds, Jessica, like you took the feedback, you made the changes, and the audience actually, the employee base actually recognized that. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking at my counterparts here at Symetra, and I believe, yes, that is the case.
Can validate that. Yes, absolutely. So let me grab a question for Julie here, and this is kind of a big, broad question. But and one of the things I think is interesting is, your title is customer experience, but also change leadership, right? And change leadership is a huge component, I think, of what you do. So this is a totally hypothetical question, and I want to be clear that I don't want this to happen because you do too much great work at Symetra. But I want you to pretend for 1 second that you were starting anew with a company that didn't have a great service reputation, wasn't very customer centric, and you were just starting on the journey. What are some of the things that you would do, or what would you share with that employer? How do you go about creating that change, creating that customer centricity, and really, driving towards a customer centric culture?
That's a great question. And there's a lot of lessons I could share about our own journey. But as I think about this, I think I would recommend thinking about this from both a top-down and bottoms-up approach, because I believe the hardest part of moving towards a customer-centric culture, if you're not there already, is it's the mindset, it's the cultural shift that's necessary to get there. And so when I say top down, I would say find that executive champion, someone like Harry who leads a division and is looking to be more customer centric in how we show up as employees to our customers, and finding that person who can really reinforce that message at all touch points, with our employees, and just reinforce the importance and why it matters to be thinking about our customers. And then on the bottoms up part, it's like pair that with finding that person in your organization that just loves solving hard customer problems or just customer problems at all, right? Have them start to listen to phone calls, talk to employees in the front office, the back office, and really understand, is there a problem out there that if we were to solve it, could help both improve the experience for our customers, but also improve the experience for our employees? Because oftentimes the experience moments that are hard for customers are also hard for employees because we've got complex processes that create those experiences or a lot of manual touch points. And so finding that one problem to solve, solving it and showcasing it and using your executive champion to help emphasize why that matters and how that helped, I think would be a great way to start to build a program.
Hey, Julie, I just want to call out, I mean, your comment there about that a difficult customer touch point is probably a difficult employee experience is so spot on. The parallel is amazing, and your own employees can really tell you pretty quickly where some of your biggest customer pain points are, and starting to tell stories around those and how they're getting fixed, I think goes a long way to the culture shift that you're talking about. So love that answer.
I'll jump in. When I was in consulting, we were going through a massive change for one of our clients in their pension plan. And I'll never forget, thank you, John. He said, "You're not in the benefits business. You're in the people business. This is going to affect people's lives. So let's let that be our North Star." And I mean, that's really what you're saying is that's why we're here. And then you back it up from there.
So, Julie, curious minds need to know. You mentioned top down with executives like Harry, the bottoms up approach with feet on the street with the employees. And then we had Jessica discussing how, adjusting based on internal feedback. But how can companies use external insights to help improve their employee experience, especially when it comes to those benefit plans?
When I think about external insights, they're so important because they can really validate the assumptions you might have. And they can also be used to augment or accelerate your own research efforts. So there's a lot of parallels, I believe, in how we can understand the drivers of customer satisfaction, similar to how we can understand the drivers of employee satisfaction. And so I think about all the published research that's readily available from consultants, from industry groups, et cetera, that really have documented what broader trends and expectations are around customers, and there's similar, parallel research on the employee side. So for the customer experience side, we often use published research to help us understand maybe what we want to dive into a little bit more. There might be some hypotheses that we end up forming because of that research, and then we can conduct our own research through focus groups or interviews or surveys to really understand, do those things resonate with the audience we're looking to attract?
So, Jim, I'm going to bring this back to you to close the loop here, right? We started talking about what Aniline does, and then we talked about gathering customer and employee feedback, and we talked about benefit plans. So let's link it all together. Can you talk a little bit about how can an employer use AI and data to impact their benefit plans? And have you seen someone do that? And probably even more importantly, to impact the utilization of the benefits, right? That's one of the things that I know we struggle with in the industry is making sure that more and more employees are actually participating in their benefit programs, choosing the benefits that can add value for them because they better understand them or they better see the risks that they feel are important in those benefits. So kind of a two-part question there. How can folks use AI and data to design and then also drive up utilization?
There's several parts, and I'm organizing my answer. One of the best, you know how you hear things and it just sticks. I work with a broker who's he wakes up every day thinking about absence management. Okay, and he loved using our data because in his experience, and he's a very seasoned, some of you probably know him, He said, if you really want to fix absence management, you got to fix leadership. That in all the data, in all the drivers, and there's that anecdote from years ago. The number one people leave is their immediate supervisor, and the number one people stay is their immediate supervisor. So those data traditionally have been hard to get to. They're last year's survey, last year's engagement, whatever. So the work that we do, like we were talking before, gets it to you much closer to now, no more than a month. Okay. And it gets you outside of your bubble. It's not the deductible. It's not the copay. It might be the network. Don't get me started. But it's the environment. We talked about trust. Think of worksite distribution. Think of 401k. I grew up on DB pensions. Okay. They're gone, right? It's now all worksite distribution of retirement. It's all engagement around getting trust going with the employer. And so if you really want your benefit plans to be successful, as a benefits professional, you've really got to work with the development side of HR and with the business, because the business is going to keep changing. We know about change. It's come more. There's going to be more of it, not less. So keeping up with that pace. So the AI does two things. It's the massive volume that you can consume and the speed with which you can generate insights and outcomes. And it's kind of like adaptability needs to be a core competency to be successful. So to adapt, what gets measured gets managed. So I would argue that as we get, there's going to be, imagine the ability to be ever more flexible complicates it, because complexity and fairness have that relationship. You want to be fair, you're going to get complicated. The data tools and the processing tools will help you manage it more effectively. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I feel about it.
It does, but it triggers another question, right? Because you mentioned adaptability, speed. Everyone's trying to figure out how to best use AI, right? And everyone's moving at a little bit different speed and how comfortable they are with using it. As you think about an employer considering or first starting to use the type of program that you can bring to the table, like what do they need to consider beyond adaptability? Are there things that you warn them about as they start to implement these types of tools?
It's funny. The warning I give all my customers is you cannot break it. We've built it in such a way so that it's a data tool. The data is what it is. It's the labor market view of your company and of other companies. It's funny. It's not so much. I'm trying to think of a way to position it. It's when I would coach up and comers in my organization, and I still to this day, what's the bottom half of your job, really? And see if you can get rid of it. In the old days, that was that was offloading it onto another human. Well, now you got a new option, right? What's the stuff? And and we kind of get stuck in that because that's kind of a comfort zone for us. So maybe the answer is identify the comfort zones and really where the talent differential comes in, and maybe take some of that, bottom half of your job, to use just a simple metaphor, is really where you start, because you can manage it, you can control it. And ultimately that is going to be the way of the, all technology does that in effect. But, it's not so much the doing as, collaboration's hard. We like our silos. So to the extent you want to, I loved the other day, I met with a customer, and learning and development in their organization reported to the chief marketing officer. I was in heaven. It was great because it just showed that, it's that cross-functional, it's putting, and that's what they say about diversity, right? Diversity of thought, diversity of background. You pull those things together and the tech can really make it a lot less frictional and more empowering, because you can get that feedback. You can see it, We could be recording this meeting, transcribing it, and getting it down to notes in real time with an AI tool. Why wouldn't we?
No, Jim, I agree. And,
are we transcribing using it? We should have.
Oh, we are. We use AI. Yeah, we use AI to produce this. So it's Yeah, AI is permeating, I think, all parts of companies, whether they want it or not. Jessica, just kind of going back and closing on, I think, the loop on a conversation we had. We're talking about data. Sounds like you were able to take data, gather it, process it, create action, and actually get results on it. If you were giving people advice on how to do the same thing, do you have a 3-step process, 4-step process, 5-step process you could share with people?
I think it depends. But, I think making data informed decisions is really the best way to go. So, there is the raw data and then there's the story behind the data. And it's getting the stories combined with the actual data results. And knowing, I think, there's always benchmarks available. But really just deciding, are the benchmarks good enough for your company, or do you want to be above benchmark? And where does that fall? Partnering with others and having, multiple eyes on that data and the results. And thinking about, where are you spending your money, and are you getting your results on that spend? What are people signing up for? And then, are they utilizing it? Do they understand how to use it? Because we spend a lot of money on benefits, and we need to make sure that our employees are using them to their full potential, and really understanding how they're used. So getting that feedback on what is best practice, what are the benchmarks in terms of utilization, and then working with your employees to ensure that they understand when and how to use their benefits. I think, when I think about getting data and looking at it, I know Todd gets a lot of emails from me in terms of, hey, what about this product? And how are we looking with this? And so, I am coming from a different perspective, where I do have a benefit product that is part of my employee population, but really leveraging those skills and resources as best as you can to make those data informed decisions for your employees.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. I love collaborating with Jessica and her team. It's like an internal focus group, because at the end of the day, I'm building products to be sold in a benefits environment. And what greater opportunity to talk to somebody whose responsibility it is to choose the benefits that are purchased and place them and communicate them. So it's a fantastic collaboration and a fantastic opportunity for me, to use the voice of the customer. And I guess actually, staying on the topic of voice of the customer, Julie, I've got a question for you. I know that Symetra is implemented a lot to really capture that voice of the customer, and I'd love if you could share a little bit on just how we're doing that, and furthermore, if you could share an example of some type of meaningful change that listening to the voice of the customer actually led to here. And I'd love it if you could do one from the benefits division, but for the listeners that don't know, we do have a retirement and an individual life division, so certainly those examples are fair game as well, but just would love to hear how we put it in practice.
Oh, sure. That's great. Thanks, Todd. So, we are listening to customers to improve what we do in all aspects of our business. So, whether it's product offerings, our product features, improving our experiences for our customers, our distribution partners, but also our employees. And I think about on the product offering side and working with you, Todd, even just a few years ago, as you were revamping your critical illness product and really listening to customers to understand, what are those things that they're looking for, and that helped you provide some new features into your product design that maybe weren't on your radar before. And because you now had features that resonated with customers, it not only increased sales, but it helped to provide a great conversation starter for our sales teams as they were speaking to brokers and potential customers. So great example on the product side. I think the other way we're really listening to customers is on those moments that matter across the customer experience to really understand where can we reduce friction. And in the benefits division, one of the things we are levering are some surveys that we do on the claims experience. And one thing that we were able to pivot along is that we went in with a hypothesis that the claim intake moment of the claims experience was where we wanted to focus. And when we got the feedback back, we realized that customers were actually pretty happy with our claim intake process. They already found it easy. I'm sure that had a lot to do with our great empathetic employees and making that matter really good for our customers. But we learned that time to claim decision was a bigger piece where we could focus. If we were to put some improvement and focus there, it would actually increase our customer satisfaction. So just really understanding from customers what was valuable to them really helps our teams be able to focus on the right things to increase satisfaction for our customers.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. That's great stuff. So I've known Harry a long time, and I know he must have some thoughts. These are some of his favorite topics: customer experience, employee engagement and experience, benefit plans. So, Harry, as we move to wrap up, I wanted to kick it over to you to see if you had any final thoughts or maybe questions for our fantastic guests as we wrap up.
I wouldn't say any more questions, Todd. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I'm going to come back to something that was said very early on, but has come out in every single comment along the way, and it comes back to culture. You cannot be effective at listening to customers or effective at listening to employees without having the right culture and mindset around how important that is. And I know it's one of the things that we're proud about here in the benefits division at Symetra is that our mission is all centered around the experiences that we create for our customers. It is our highest purpose, and that has served us well. So I thought the conversation was excellent, and I appreciate everyone's time.
Well, I can't think of a better note to end on. Harry, thank you. Paul, Laura, always a pleasure. And I really want to give a special thanks to our fantastic guests, Jim, Julie, and Jessica. Your perspectives added a ton to the show, and it really was a fun dialogue. So with that, we'll wrap up this episode, but we will be back soon with new episodes of the Working Forward podcast. So keep an eye on your podcast feeds, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.
You're listening to Working Forward, Future of Work podcast series. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Symetra Life Insurance Company or its affiliates. The host is not affiliated with Symetra Life Insurance Company and/or any of its affiliates and is solely responsible for the content.